Thank you, Mr. Chair and the Ranking Member. As we start out, I also want to thank some of the folks who've joined us for the hearing today. A good friend, Ron Harris, is here from Minneapolis. Good to see you, Ron. And I just want to let you know that this active citizenship of coming to these hearings, watching things, is exactly what is needed in order for this government to function properly. In my view, this is what democracy looks like. Thank you all for being here. Now, let me, Ms. Yellen, Chairman Yellen, let me point your attention to the words of Mr. Narayana Kocherlakota, who is a former Minneapolis Fed chair, outgoing president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. He made on Martin Luther King Day, he wrote a blog, and here's what he said in part: "There is one key source of economic difference in American life that is likely underemphasized in the FOMC deliberations: race." He went on to say that for the year, he went on to say that he searched through the transcripts of the FOMC meetings for the year 2010, his first year on the committee, and a dire year for African Americans in our labor market. And in that year, a total unemployment rate exceeded 9.25% every quarter, but for African Americans, it exceeded 15.5%. Today, now, white unemployment in Minnesota is 2.9% as of December 2015, but black unemployment is 14.1%. And in Minneapolis, white unemployment is 4%, but overall, white unemployment is 4%, but black unemployment is a shocking 18.9%. So I say that because, I mean, this is something that I think needs the attention of the chair. And you may, I don't know what constraints you believe are out there, but, you know, race matters when it comes to how people experience our economy. And if we don't discuss it, talk about it, and then we won't ever get to the heart of the matter as to how to fix it to make equal justice for all. And so I guess my question, and I'll quote Coach Lakota one more time. He said, as we all know too well, race matters. The average African American's experience with the U.S. economy is different from that of the average white person's. So my question is, what do you make of the commentary from the previous Minneapolis Fed president? In your view, is there adequate discussion, attention of the economic situation of African American workers within FOMC deliberations? And if so, and if there's not, and I suspect you'll say there's not, what can we do about it? How can we at least focus the committee's attention on this segment of our fellow Americans?
So it's of course important that we look at different groups, and particularly those who are suffering the most in the labor market. And I'm surprised that there was no specific mention of race. It's in 2010, the unemployment rate was substantially higher than it was. The committee was very focused at the time on what we could do to promote a stronger labor market. And I suppose because our tools are not ones that can be targeted at particular groups in the labor market.
But Chair Yellen, forgive me for the interruption. I definitely think that, I get that part, but I'd rather talk prospectively, because the past is what happened and there's no change in it. How can the Fed chair get the FOMC to say, wait a minute, not all Americans, particularly African Americans, are experiencing this upsurge in economic activity? For black Americans, we're still in the midst of a very serious depression, recession. What can we do about it? And I'm not here to say, to wag my finger about what happened. We know what happened and it wasn't right. But in terms of what's happening now and what can happen, what can you tell me?
Well, I think you're right that we should pay adequate attention to how different groups are faring in the labor market. We've made clear that we don't focus on any single statistic, that the unemployment rate is only one measure of what's happening in the labor market, and it is appropriate for us to really try to where things stand and what we should be aiming for.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair anticipates calling upon two more members, Mr. Barr and Mr. Delaney, and then excusing the witness.